Hello everyone, thank you for joining this talk. My name is Thomas and this is my colleague Claire. We are both part of the MMC team, which stands for Mid-Market and Corporate. As the name speaks for itself, we are a dedicated team to support large companies in their digitalization. The aim of this talk today is to present to you what new features the new version of Odoo, the V16, will bring to large companies in terms of improvements.
But first, let us remind us what is Odoo. So, of course, the main added value of Odoo is that it's an all-in-one management software. So you might be a small or medium or large business. You might face the exact same problems. You have between 14 and 30 different softwares. And of course, you want those softwares to be connected, to be integrated with one another, which is really money and time consuming. So the main added value of Odoo is that you have now an only one management software. All your data are at a same place, and you have the same info for everyone.
In our department, we deal with large companies. Large companies mainly have a huge amount of data. We see more and more concern from these big companies on the management of their data and the fact that it will make the software, the ERP software in general, slower in terms of response time. What the new version of Odoo, the V16, will bring as an answer to this concern?
Yes, exactly. Performance is key, of course, especially for large businesses. And so for the V16, we really focused on that point. So, of course, it was also our focus previously on other versions. But on other versions, we used to increase the performance just for some layers and on the structure of the database. For the V16, we improved all of them. So, for example, just for the CSS layer, we managed to reduce by 80% the amount of code of that layer. Imagine how now Odoo will be fast and snappy, and your users will feel it for sure.
So in the end, we can say that Odoo is going to be one of the fastest ERP software for our customer, and that they will truly gain in efficiency every day on their daily tasks.
Of course. And you know, apart from performance, which is essential, there's also the user experience that is super important for Odoo. We put our user at the center of our product, and we do think the product, depending on the user journey, the usability of the database is something extremely important. So what are the things that have been improved now in the V16?
Indeed, as you mentioned, user friendliness is at the center of Odoo. It is the promise of Odoo. As you can see on the screen, Odoo is a fully integrated, complete solution, scalable, but what links all this is user friendliness, and it's really at the heart of Odoo software. It will also be at the heart of the V16 because everything we do in R&D at Odoo is made with user friendliness at the heart of it. So every new feature that you will see in this talk is taking into account user friendliness in the new version, and it will be the case in all the next versions of Odoo.
Yes, this is really nice. I love the dark mode. This is something great, I think, about Odoo16. And also a great user friendliness will also implicate, and you will be able to onboard your user really more easily than with a tool that they don't like to use.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about onboarding and processes, if we think about a large companies, it is often made of very multiple processes and very complex processes. If we take an example of one of your employee working at the customer service, he will be facing a customer case that he never faced before or never heard about before. It will be difficult for him to bring the right answer if he cannot find it very easily. And in the end, if he cannot find the information about this case or this process, it means that the answer he will bring to the customer will be of poor quality and or take too long to be to answer the customer. And in the end, it means your customer satisfaction is going down, and this is dramatic for companies.
Yes, it is. And so that's why in Odoo16, we developed a brand new module, which is called the knowledge database. And so the knowledge database is a centralized place where you will be able to put all your information, all your processes. And of course, at Odoo, we do love that our modules are natively integrated with one another, meaning that, for example, for your employee that is facing an issue with the customer, he won't have to leave the screen, leave the tickets he's working on. In one click, he will be able to access this knowledge database. So this is really nice, and of course, this is also dynamic, meaning that he will be able to copy-paste, for example, some templates, some emails, but also download some PDF or other types of documents. So the answer is really harmonized with the process that you have put in place for your company.
Okay, then I see here that we're giving a tool to our customers to overtake the competitors in terms of customer satisfaction in the end.
Absolutely. And you know, your people are at the center of your business. It's sometimes really difficult to handle and manage the entire amount of people, because as a large business, you have maybe 100, thousands of employees to deal with. So how can we help that management of employees, and also how can we reduce the administrative work for the HR, but also for your employees so they can focus on a more important task?
You're true. That's something that large companies are facing at the moment. This is a big challenge for them to manage such a huge amount of employees properly, to retain them, and also to recruit a large number of new employees. So we kept this in mind and worked on new features and improvement on three main topics. So there has been this breakthrough on three main topics. The first one is managing better your employees and help them to grow. Managing better your employees because new dashboard will be available to help HR people to know exactly what actions needs to be taken at which time regarding this issue or this one with employees. But also on the evaluation and helping your employees to grow, we worked a lot on skills, skills evaluation, skills report, and skills comparison. So it means for managers that they will be able to follow up the progress of their employees, of their team, on very specific skills and help them to grow in their company. The second main topic is about helping employees to focus on their job, the task they are employed for, and not on very time-consuming administrative tasks. So there has been a lot of work done on helping to optimize administrative processes, especially on approvals. So we know that large companies have a lot of approval process and that we need to help them to make them the approval process faster. That's what we did here. And we also bring an additional feature to help employees sign documents, which is often the case in large companies too, via It's Me that is now that will now be available on Odoo. Then the third main topic is recruitment. A lot of new features are coming regarding recruitment to simplify the work of recruiters, especially on CV scanning. So we will use the OCR technology to help them analyze a CV faster. We will also help them to analyze their performance through new reports, which will show them the proper source of recruiting, the one that works better for them, as well as the analysis of the process and the time spent per stage in the recruitment process to help them improve that process and maybe hire more easily candidates. One last topic on the HR improvements, we worked also on regulation. You may know that it is essential for companies working with data to give the possibility to a contact to be forgotten from the system, so we need to delete all the data. This is very difficult. We have to look for all the data in the system, and Odoo will now allow you to do this in very few clicks, which means that you will be able to respect the regulation in Europe.
This is absolutely great. Another process that we often have in companies is also manufacturing and production. As a large company, you may face the problem that, well, you have different lines, for example, different work centers, and it's sometimes difficult to manage everything and still be flexible. Flexibility is the keyword for the Odoo16 version. So in manufacturing, we developed some great new feature, just for example, the fact that you can now split or merge different manufacturing orders. How great is that? So you can adapt your production depending well on your current business and activities. You can also now have a great overview on your work centers to be sure that they are in full production and 100% efficient. Also, on work centers, it might happen that indeed you need to do some maintenance, for example, predictive maintenance. Now you will be able to block or pause or stop your production during that period of time, so you can, of course, postpone your production or just put the production on another line, for example, on another work center. And my favorite feature also is the possibility now to include your people working on those assembly lines, for example, in your processes and in your production processes. So now they will be able to suggest some improvements, some modifications, and you will be able also to review it and validate it if so. So really, the flexibility is at the heart of manufacturing for this version 16.
I see indeed also a tool that is very, a manufacturing tool that is very oriented towards the people working on the floor in the production with this new screen, and something that is oriented also with simplifying the planning of production. So that's great. We're now giving in large industrial companies the possibility to have a fully integrated tool that is also easy to use for the people working daily with it in production. That's great.
Absolutely, and we do know that sometimes for large businesses it's complicated because you have different warehouses, you have different production centers, and it's also, you know, sometimes the fact with accounting. For example, you have different subsidiaries, you have different entities in your group, and well, they are spread globally. So it's really difficult to have one accounting tool that is common to all of them, and also it's really difficult to have the data and the information you need from these accounting systems. So how can Odoo16 help in that regard?
Actually, you're right. I think there are two things you mentioned. The first one is how to have a clear picture of your financial situation to make the best decision at the best time. And that's why we use analytic accounting generally. And we wanted to bring this tool at a higher level and give the possibility to our customers to have another layer of analysis, which means in the end that they will be able to have more precise analysis of their financial situation and make more precise decision at the best time, at a more precise time. So that's what we did with the new analytic accounting in Odoo. I'm not going to go in the feature in too much details because there is a full talk focusing on this that we encourage you to go to. But another topic you mentioned is the issue, the challenge to analyze a financial situation of a whole group, like internationally, when you have subsidiaries across the world. And we are very aware of this by working with large corporations or large companies. They have subsidiaries everywhere. So we worked a lot on this topic to allow them to analyze financially all of them and have a global picture of the financial situation of the group. So we worked on localizations, updates, of course, and improvements, but more specifically, we worked on new localizations such as Bulgaria, Kenya, Pakistan, and Serbia. So it means that companies who work internationally will have more possibilities of financial reporting and financial analysis, again, to make the best decision at the best time with that global picture, that international picture of their financial situation. What is also important to know is that at Odoo, we tripled the size of the team taking care of this. And this means that we will bring more and more possibilities towards international financial analysis through Odoo.
This is great news. And also, well, what matters is reporting. So you might have different accounts, you might have different types of accounting, you might have different subsidiaries. And again, it's sometimes difficult to have some good reportings. So in Odoo16, what we did is that we did the work for you. So in one click, you will be able to have great insights about your company. And so it goes from finance to sales to human resource management, but also your pipelines, for example. So in some clicks, you can have great information that will be able to help you in terms of budget, but also of decision making. And so this is really important because now the amount of data that you might have in your database won't be an excuse to not having great reportings.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for joining this talk. We hope that we see in the new version a great tool for your companies. We would like to mention that the list of features or improvement we mentioned here is only a non-exhaustive list. We encourage you to attend the different talks about these topics. And if you cannot attend them, you will be able to watch them in replay after the Odoo experience. We truly thank you for your attention, and we are here at your disposal. If you have any question, feel free to reach to Odoo, and we'll be happy to help you.
Thank you, and see you soon.
The possibilities Odoo16 can bring to large companies. With quite a few questions, so I will take just the first one. What would be, for you, Raluca and you, Claire, the feature you're eager to show to the new MMC customers that are interested in Odoo16, and why?
For me, it's the analytical accounting. Honestly, I think it's a great revolution, and I think it will really improve the life of the bigger companies.
True, accounting is something, but I would say knowledge app for me, because I don't know. This is like we might think that this is something common, that all processors are harmonized through the company, but this is really not the case. And we do face all those issues with our customer, and I do think this is really an added value. Simple one, but a great one.
Yeah, and actually one question about the knowledge app would be if we can integrate the knowledge app to customize apps or modules. Do you know about that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question, but normally sure. I think you should be able probably, but we can take a note and come back to you on
yeah,
this.
Of course, don't hesitate to come at the stand, and we'll take your information, contact details, and have the answer for you.
Perfect, thank you. Another question from the audience here. Based on your experience, what are the main challenges for large clients or large projects?
Challenges?
Yes.
Well, changing an ERP is a challenge in itself. Usually this is what's the challenge about. This is really huge for a company to change completely an ERP. So usually large companies do have something installed, and so they just need to change to something else. And so there's really like this transition that needs to be tackled, this change management also that is really important, and we do see that this is a great deal for companies. So I would say really this transition is something, it takes also time because it's more complex, larger projects. So patience is key, but also being able to communicate a lot with the employees, being able to involve employees as soon as possible in the process. That's really something that I think it's difficult when you do the transition to a new ERP.
Change management is quite important indeed.
Exactly.
All right, another question from the audience. It's actually more about the reporting tool that has been updated and the dashboards. So how easy do you think is it to customize the dashboards, and how do you restrict the access to data that is in the dashboard?
Well, I think the idea was really with the redoing the dashboards to be much easier to create them. So everything would be built on certain spreadsheets. So it would be much easier to integrate in your dashboard compared to what it was before trying to build one. So the user experience will be much easier. And of course, in restricting data, it all depends a bit on the access rights. So that will depend on how you give access to your employees and to which data they can actually consult. So it will really depend.
Okay, perfect. There's one about my phone number, but yeah, if you want my phone number, you can come see me afterwards.
Also to the MMC booth on the left.
Yeah, a quite general question actually. That might have been for the introduction of the talk. How do you define large accounts? What is the big difference between the large accounts and the quick start projects that we have at Odoo?
Good question. Indeed, so we started this department dealing with larger accounts like 3 years ago. So because we did see that there's an opportunity on the market, and so we define a large account here in Odoo just to make the difference between us and direct sales with as a company with more than 250 employees. And so of course this is also depending on how the project has to be conducted. So for example, larger companies to have more processes, just as for example an RFQ. And so this is the kind of processes that we deal with. So we have a different approach, a different methodology. So depending on the project, depending on the company, we choose what's best for the customer, what's best for the project, and which implementation methodology we're going to go for.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we have time for one last question. Maybe, let me see if we have... We have a question about data migration or data, history of data that needs to be upgraded or migrated, sorry, to the new version. How would that be handled in a few words in a large project?
So in a large project, in a few words, well, we do take care also of the upgrade, but of course the customer is really implied also just to be sure that everything is working well. So upgrades can be available for any customers as long as they are on production, that the project is implemented. Of course, we advise, but we also want our customer to upgrade at some point. So this is really important that customers do not have any outdated system. This is often what we see. It's often the case for larger companies to just stop upgrading or to just run on software that is that is just in the past and not having new features, not having new versions. And so this is really something that we want to do for all of customers.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Raluca.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.